Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission Rules Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with a goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please select the raise hand feature. Please use the raise hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder, this is a video conference. Per Bagley-King requirements, all cameras must be on during the duration of the meeting. If you're unable to have your camera on, you must indicate a reason for your non-appearance during the meeting. Please be aware of the surroundings behind you. All committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar's website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable transcript. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kim. And I think we are going to call the meeting to order. And I think our first item is to do the roll call of the members in attendance, and then we will turn to some public comment.
Yes, thank you. I'll take roll. Blakemore?
Yes.
Alsaroff? I'm sorry, Alsaroff?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Sorry.
Connolly?
Here.
Wong? Mahoney? And Sandville?
Here.
We have a quorum, and then our liaisons, Selena Copeland?
Present.
Melanie Snyder? And then just noting that we have Dwan from State Bar staff, as well as Sylvia Nunn and Kim Turner joining us for the meeting. Thank you.
Terrific. I note that we have some members of the public and we have an opportunity for public comment. I thought we might, I know there's two items that are likely of interest to some of the commentators. The first is on investment and policies, and the second is a discussion about support center requirements. So I thought we might take public comment on the first item, which is the investment policies. So if there's individuals that are members of the public and want to comment on that, if you could raise your hand, then Kim will call on you.
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, and does anyone have a public comment regarding the support center requirements?
One person. Hold on 1 minute.
Thank you so much.
Actually, it's two. Now it's three. I'll promote the first one. Allow the first one to speak.
Okay, and let's try and limit comments to no more than 3 minutes, just so we can provide an opportunity for everyone to make a comment. And does Dwan have her hand up too?
No, I believe that's Erin.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, Kim, do you want to call on people for us? Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Erin.
Yes, hi everyone. Erin Smith, member of the Trust Fund Commission. As those commissioners already know, I'm just here as I joined with interest the last Rules Committee meeting where you discussed support center topics. This is just an item of particular interest to me as a former executive director of a support center. So I'm just here to listen. In particular, I'm quite curious to hear what challenges or problems maybe staff or the commission has identified in administering the support center rules, which are kind of operating as guiding principles, I guess, or reasons for looking at particular changes now. And then also just to offer myself as a resource if that can be helpful as a former ED of a support center. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. Is there another comment?
Hold on 1 second.
Sure, thank you. Maybe I can, let me see if I can see. It looks like Lauren Brady from the Youth Law Center, maybe?
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can. Thanks for
Great.
joining us.
Hello. Of course. My name is Lauren Brady. I'm the managing director at the Youth Law Center. I wanted to comment on the support center rules revision process. And the issue I wanted to raise today was relates basically to the depth of connection and advocacy support between a support center and a legal services provider. In this moment, as I'm sure everyone on this call is very familiar, many legal services providers are dealing with issues of capacity, particularly those smaller and more rural providers who many support centers are trying to work with in more depth. Those folks are facing increasing need and decreased funding. And I just think it's not totally reasonable to think that those legal services providers will be able to meet the entirety of the need in their communities of all eligible populations. Support centers do have the opportunity to assist in meeting that need through our advocacy support function, but doing so at this point in time and possibly in the future may not involve deep and direct full partnership and participation with the legal services provider given their capacity challenges. Meeting that need in the community via support center advocacy is particularly salient for special populations that already have a difficult time accessing those legal services providers. In our case at the Youth Law Center, that would be young people and young people involved in state systems, but that same principle applies for some other populations, including incarcerated folks, seniors in nursing homes, and many others. Our hope is that as the rules revisions conversation continues, there'll be flexibility in the approach to determining how much direct and deep involvement a QLSP must have in a larger advocacy effort that meets a need in their community that they've identified for legal aid eligible populations, and also in how the support center can then lean in, utilizing a variety of their own resources to meet that need. Thanks so much for your attention to these issues. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for the comment. And I think Elizabeth Zerker has her hand up.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. I'm Elizabeth Zerker. I'm a senior attorney with the National Health Law Program. I wanted to just comment on the support center revisions and regarding capturing significant levels of support. We'd just like to emphasize that there should be a focus on the substantive value of deep expertise in an area, including through litigation, technical assistance, trainings, and extensive in-depth materials, rather than a focus on a particular number or percentage of QLSPs served. Just kind of emphasizing that for some of the support centers, we serve a very specific group of QLSPs in the healthcare space. And so reflecting the work that we do there and having some flexibility on what the number or percentage is. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It looks like Mara Gibney has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you so much. I would just want to echo Elizabeth's comments in at this point. While I'm the executive director of California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, we too are a support center that serves a very niche area. And just want to recognize that for the last 2 years, the number of programs that have been added, approved for funding, as IOLTA funded QLSP programs has expanded very rapidly. And so when we talk about percentages, and that the focus of those that were added over the last couple of years, understandably so, very heavy on the side of immigration concerns. No issue with that. I think what some of us who serve a very specific kind of technical assistance, who provide a very specific type of technical assistance support. For example, over the last 2 years, I think there's only one program that serves seniors specifically that was added out of, something like 18 legal services programs. So when we look kind of proportionate over time, just would like the commission to consider being mindful of that I don't have a way of, my organization probably has very little crossover with many of the new legal services programs that have been added in the last 2 years. So while at this point, I don't have concerns about meeting a 25% threshold, just not knowing what the priorities are going to be over time, it could become a concern. If there were, if the number were to grow so much that proportionately, we kind of become stagnant in the number of programs that we can serve. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for the comment, Mara.
No one else has their hand raised. Oh, I take that back. One person,
We
just-
did.
yeah.
Child Care Law Center is what the caption says. So Child Care Law, oh, there. Looks like Allison has joined us. And you're on mute still. Oh, nope, that's different. Okay, sorry.
Hi, this is Karina Lego. I'm a senior staff attorney at the Child Care Law Center, and I use she, her pronouns. We'd like to uplift and agree with the comments made by the other support centers in that the quality of our relationships really is reflected in the amount of work that we do. While we are physically located in the Bay Area, we have great strong relationships across the state in Southern California and rural areas. And while that might not be reflected in, we also ask for flexibility and understanding that it's the depth and the level of service and not just attempting to meet a quota. We wouldn't want our work to be affected by those types of standards that we'd have to fill in order to satisfy state bar rules. And we ask for grace and understanding from the commission when trying to address those issues.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised other than Selena. So Selena, did you want to offer a comment?
I'm happy to go last. I just want to make sure that Allison didn't want to comment because I saw her pop up. Right. I just wanted to summarize some of the things that I've heard from support centers. I think the town halls were especially helpful, so I look forward to the presentation from staff. But I think what you're going to hear from a lot of support centers is that it's really hard to find a set of rules that encapsulates the value of every different support center, because not only are they very different in size and in structure and in the services they offer, but some of them have very, very deep knowledge in such a smaller issue that while it's statewide, not a lot of QLSPs may think to reach out to them. And so I think one thing that we've been grappling with for more than a decade, I've been at meetings more than a decade, is how to get newer QLSPs to understand how support centers work. And I think what you'll hear from support centers throughout this whole process is that those new QLSPs often don't understand how to reach out to support centers, that the support centers are funded to help them, that they provide training and technical assistance, and they really do have this deep expertise and deep knowledge. And I think that's a piece I would love to keep talking about at the Rules Committee is not, is it 10 organizations or 25%, but how do we or how do y'all as a commission really improve those relationships? Because what we don't want to see is a brand new QLSP not reaching out and trying to develop knowledge that another organization has spent 40 years developing. So I really look forward to the presentation from staff, but I'm hearing a lot of competing ideas from our community, but everyone says it's the strength and the depth of relationship that matters most.
Catherine, sorry, we can't hear you.
Thank you so much. I muted myself while I was trying to find a pen. So I was just going to do a very brief chair's report, was just to reflect a little bit on sort of where we are and why we're here. And then we'll turn it over to staff for their report and that go to approving the minutes. So the bar thinks it's important to look at all of the rules, and you might recall, I think a couple of years ago, we went through other rules that have now been approved, including refining the definition of what is legal services to sort of update it to be more current. And I think the thought about reviewing rules is that it allows for transparency in the development of rules that in some cases are really old, back to the time when these statutes were first passed. They haven't necessarily been looked at. And it will provide the opportunity to get really good community input. And as you can see, that we've started some of that through the sort of focus group meetings that were held. And the intention is to use that input to help us think about what are the best ways to adjust the rules if those rules need adjusting. And then with the goal of having a set of rules that can be applied and used by everyone with kind of the same understanding. So that's our goal as we embark on this rules process. And I really look forward to continued input from the Legal Aid Support Center community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing staff, which is Erica Carroll and Kim Turner, to see if they, and Dwan, to see if they have a report. I'm not sure which one of you is doing the report.
Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Just briefly, I think many of you were probably at the commission's meeting on August 8th, but at that meeting, the commission approved several rules from last year that this committee had worked on to go to the Board of Trustees for incorporation into the rules of the State Bar. So we anticipate taking that to the board before the end of the year, and hopefully we'll have some new rules. In particular, they're primarily related to fiscal requirements, so things you may have heard about with budget modifications, carryover requests, qualified expenditures. Those topics will all hopefully be addressed and updated towards the end of this year. So thank you for those who are continuing committee members who did all that work last year. Excited to see this come to completion, this portion of the process.
Thanks, Erica. Do any other staff have a part of a report? Nope. Okay. I think that takes us to the open session minutes. Our last meeting was on May 2nd. And has everyone had a chance to review those? And if so, does anyone have a motion to approve?
I'm happy to make the motion.
Thank you, Erica. Is there a second?
I'll make the second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other questions or discussions about the minutes? Okay, I'm not seeing any, which means we're ready for roll call.
Elserauf,
Yes.
Connolly,
Yes.
Wong, Mahoney, Sandville,
Yes.
Blakemore.
Yes.
The motion carries. 4 yeses, no nos.
Thanks for that, Erica. And I think that takes us to our first item of business, which is 4.1, recommended approval of rules regarding Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and grantee investment policies and release for public comments. So if we could pull up that slide and presentation, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see my slides? Okay.
We are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So I'm Sylvia Nam. I'm a senior program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion. Along with Erica Connolly, we're presenting agenda item 4.1 on 2 proposed investment policy rules, rules 3.663 and rule 3.684 to govern trust fund program funds and for grantees receiving those funds. Just a quick note on the working group. Erica Connolly is currently its sole member. Xavier Vargas was part of the working group before his departure. Based on recommendations from the working group as well as from staff, we consulted with Jeff Ball, a former commissioner, who, from my understanding, has 25 years of experience in commercial and investment banking. He reviewed an earlier version of the rules and confirmed that they were fiscally sound. He didn't comment on the state bar components, but commented exclusively on the financial side. So here's a quick roadmap of what will be covered for this item. So background on topics and current practice, the working group's recommendations, feedback from the legal aid community, and the draft of the rules discussion, and then the proposed resolution. The purpose of these investment policies is to ensure alignment with the intent of the governing authorities and current practice for the Commission and state bar grantees. To that end, there are two distinct but parallel policies. One for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, which applies specifically to IOLTA funds, and a second optional policy for grantees that hold state bar awarded funds in reserve. For the trust fund program, the investment policy serves as a companion to the reserve policy adopted in 2023. And together they support the Commission's core responsibility to ensure stability and continuity of legal aid funding through both prudent distribution and prudent investment of IOLTA funds. The trust fund investment policy was also designed to align with the State Bar's existing investment policy, included in your materials as Attachment B. That policy is reviewed annually by the Board of Trustees. And so under Business and Professions Code 6210.5 subsection E3, the board is required to approve the Commission's recommendations unless it makes a written finding that doing so would conflict with the State Bar's statutory, legal, or fiduciary obligations. For grantees, the goal is to ensure consistency with other policy determinations made by the Commission, as well as with the technical assistance and guidance provided by staff. So for both policies, the emphasis is on providing a fiscally responsible and flexible framework, and you're going to hear me repeat that phrasing, one that's grounded in prudent standards, but adaptable enough to accommodate different contexts and cash flow needs. Currently, the State Bar invests a portion of the IOLTA balance, primarily in short-term, low-risk cash equivalent instruments, such as U.S. Treasury bills and discount notes from government-sponsored entities like the Federal Home Loan Banks. Most instruments mature in 90 days or less, which aligns with the quarterly IOLTA distribution scheduled to grantees. With interest rates at historic highs, investment of IOLTA funds has become a significant source of revenue. Based on staff projections presented to the Executive Committee in April, investment income is expected to total between $6.6 to $10.3 million in 2023, all of which is redistributed to grantees. At the same time, as interest rates are expected to decline, investment income may also decrease in turn. And so this unknown future has reinforced and supported the working group as well as staff's recommendation to adopt a principles-based rather than performance-driven policy guidance. Separately, the organizations that receive IOLTA and EAF grants, as you know, must comply with a range of governing authorities that include State Bar rules, eligibility guidelines, general grant provisions, as well as standards for financial management systems and audits. However, none of these governing authorities currently offer guidance on whether or how grantees may invest grant funds. So moving on, in developing these policies, the working group, but also as well as from staff conversations, drew from multiple sources to ensure both feasibility, accountability, and alignment. So first, as I noted already, the objectives and responsibilities mirror the State Bar's existing investment policy, specifically concept that includes safety of principal, liquidity, and prudent oversight. At the same time, the proposed policy is consistent with current practice, particularly how IOLTA funds are managed in close coordination with the State Bar's CFO. That practice reflects the avoidance of risk, as well as more granular financial management required of more complex investment strategies. Second, the working group and staff reviewed best practices from IOLTA programs nationally that include Michigan, Wisconsin, and Virginia, as well as the Legal Services Corporation, and guidance on investment policies of California's public agencies. These sources provided a reference point for policy objectives, responsibilities, and reporting requirements grounded in legal compliance and financial prudence. Unlike some peer policies, however, the working group as well as staff intentionally chose not to define things like asset allocations or diversification targets, liquidity formulas or ratios, or investment performance benchmarks that are included in the policies of other IOTA programs in the country. And again, it took a principles-based approach focused on safety principle, liquidity to meet operational needs, and prudent investment where possible. This also reflects a capacity issue and the risk profile of the funds involved, and more complex strategies that would require oversight infrastructure that are not possible at this time. Third, the initial version of the reporting requirements for grantees was designed to ensure that grantees had proper internal controls aligned with permissible use of funds requirements and ensure that grantees are able to document investment activities when requested. And the provisions were aimed, again, to safeguard public funds while allowing for discretion and flexibility. So the draft rules and memo were circulated for community input from July 25th to August 8th, with feedback facilitated by LAC. The community provided constructive insights, focused exclusively on the grantee policy, with recurring emphasis on clarity, as well as requests to minimize reporting burdens. So first, grantees appreciated the clear investment statement that investment is not required as a condition of receiving grant funds. There was a strong preference for streamlined reporting, especially for low-risk investments. One suggestion was to allow a simple annual affirmation if and when only safe instruments were used. The community also recommended including a non-exhaustive list of permitted instruments, such as certificates of deposit, treasury bills, and money market accounts, with the possibility that reporting be waived when only these instruments were involved. There was also strong concern about any language in the rules that apply the segregation of funds. The community flagged that the segregation of funds would be an administrative burden that could discourage investment altogether. Some organizations also raised whether reporting oversight should rest with a state bar or with the organization's board of directors. Terms like prudence and return on investment were viewed as overly broad or unclear that could be potentially removed or clarified. And finally, some grantees requested clarification on spend down timelines, specifically when interest income should be used, which likely to reduce confusion during budgeting as well as reporting. So in response to community feedback, the primary revision was to Rule 3.684D to clarify expectations and reduce unnecessary reporting burden, folding it into existing review while maintaining alignment with the fiduciary duties of the commission as well as the state bar. In the revision, the reporting was integrated in the suggested revision, the reporting is now integrated into the annual IOLTA EAF application process rather than being ad hoc or upon request. The requirement to report investment type and liquidity status was struck. A new provision was added requiring affirmation that internal accounting policies are in place to earmark any investment income. And while the annual review and investment activity remains in place, it's now the responsibility of the grantee's board of directors and no longer submitted to the commission. The policy retains the term prudence and return on investment to stay consistent with the state bar's own investment policy, and the full definition of prudence is provided in the memo. Because the policy is principles-based and designed to allow flexibility, it does not conclude a list of specific permitted investment instruments. And then on spend down requirements, the rules specify that investment income must follow permissible use of funds requirements, but it doesn't impose a specific timeline, again, to support flexibility and reduce potential reporting burdens. So I wanted to spotlight the specific changes before revisions were made, again, based on community feedback. So while the original proposed rule for section 3.684D, and again, this is for the grantee investment policy, laid out detailed reporting structure if a grantee chose to invest trust fund program funds. Under that draft, as you see here, the grantees would be required to maintain and able to produce detailed internal records for what you see under from A to G, types and amounts of investments held, things like purchase and maturity rates, as well as a statement of portfolio liquidity. And it also required an annual review of investment activity to be conducted by the organization's board and submitted to the commission upon request. So the original thinking about making the review of investment activity under quote unquote upon request was to provide flexibility for grantees and to reduce reporting burdens. But based on my understanding of the community feedback, that feedback indicated that that was not clear enough, potentially too ad hoc and difficult to prepare. So again, this approach emphasized transparency and fiduciary accountability. The feedback made it clear that this level of detail could be burdensome, especially for organizations investing in safe, low-risk instruments. It also raised concerns among the community about flexibility, reporting cadence, as well as administrative capacity. In response to that feedback, the working group made the revisions highlighted here. One key change is that the permissible use of funds requirements that was up earlier in the rule was moved to this section for clarity and emphasis. And so just to follow up on the revisions that were made, the revised rule begins with use that any investment income earned, whether interest or dividends, must be used in accordance with the permissible use of funds requirements already applicable to grantees. Second, grantees must now confirm through their annual IOLTA EAF application that they have internal accounting policies in place to properly earmark any investment income for qualifying services. Third, the requirement to report specific details is clarified. So grantees must report the dollar amount of IOLTA funds that are invested, which is more specific. But the previous requirement to include a statement of portfolio liquidity was removed. And finally, the annual review requirement remains in place, but it is no longer, again, the responsibility of, is no longer automatically submitted to the commission, but it's a responsibility of the grantees board. And so, again, the changes preserve fiscal oversight and compliance with grant terms while also being responsive to the community feedback, specifically clearer expectations and reduced administrative burden. Also wanted to open it up for discussion, but before doing so, Erica, I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to add based on what I presented.
No, I think it's pretty clear. Is there any way you could actually just put up the full rule? Because I actually don't think the full rule was in our materials. I'm like looking back and like there's no attachment A to the memo.
Okay, I can.
So if we could put up the full rule just so everyone can kind of see.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to stop my share and reshare once I have it up so you don't see me scrolling.
That's totally fine. Yeah. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it would be helpful just to understand.
Do you want the current version or do you want to side by side with the current and the former?
I think the current version's fine. I just think there's the whole part about the policy for the commission that I think it would be useful to just make sure we have up so everyone can see that. I know there was a lot of comment and feedback on the one for the grantees, but there are two parts. So if you could put that up, that would be really great.
Okay, give me one moment, please.
Yeah, no problem. Other than that, I don't have any additional comments, but happy to answer any questions or we can kind of talk through some of this stuff.
So while we're doing that, Erica, first, thank you for being a committee of one currently on this. and doing all the work that, your expertise on this is really valuable. I heard something, and maybe I just misheard, it said, and I think it was in the state bar portion, where it said prudent when possible. Did I hear that correctly? Like,
Prudent investment when possible.
well, so what it, like, I guess when, like, when would it not be prudent?
So there's something called a prudent investment standard that is a primary principle. I don't know if this is the question, but is in the investment policy of the state bar, and the language in the investment policy for the commission, as well as grantees, reflects that same definition, and that full definition of prudence I cited in the memo, and it's from California Government Code. There's a
Okay.
big block quote there. The language is specific, and it's a lexicon of fiduciary responsibility, but I do think that it is quite common. There's something called the prudent investment standard that I think is quite common across the industry.
Okay, so maybe when we pull it up, I'll just see the full context, because it just made me stop and think, like, what does prudent when possible mean? And Selena, did you have a question while we're pulling this up?
I'm happy to give the additional feedback I've heard whenever you think it's appropriate, because I shared not only the original memo from Sylvia, but this PowerPoint, when it was posted, I shared it with 115 people who gave me feedback.
Okay, so why don't we look at, I think Erica's ask was that maybe we start with just looking at the state, the rule that for the Trust Fund Commission, and then we could go, and I don't think you have any comments about that, right, Selena? Okay.
Do you want to?
Yeah, do you, Sylvia, can you flag where it says the possibility? I didn't remember
I
that
don't see it
language.
here either, so.
Yeah, there was no language around prudent when possible. So
Okay, I might have just misheard when you were doing your overview. So if it's not there, I'm happy and we can move on.
And more generally, I think we tried to, for the one for the commission, we tried to make this like that, and this is maybe related to what you're asking about, Catherine, is that investment should be made only, like, there's no requirement to invest, right?
Yeah.
If the investment makes sense, right? The market, like we're in these current times, right? And there's interest rates that are high and it's worth it. But I think we tried to, for both rules, say no one has to invest if it's not a good, if it doesn't seem prudent to do the investment, it's also okay not to do it. So I just wanted to flag that part. So this is not a mandate that anyone needs to invest. Sometimes in different contexts, we're talking about ERISA funds or pension funds, there's more of an obligation to invest. That's not what we're doing here. It's only if it makes sense to, it will result in income and will not injure the safety or put at risk, then it's worth it. Anyway, so any other questions? I mean, I think the one that's for us, I don't think is particularly controversial, but happy to answer any questions that anyone has. I think it pretty much aligns with like what the other agencies in the state bar do.
yes.
Sylvia, am I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. It's actually more conservative than State Bar's investment policy, but aligned. So there's no deviation from what's in the policy.
Yeah, I think
it reflects
that's a good
practice.
That's a good point. I do think that I don't remember if it's state bar policy or in the government code, but there's like a somewhat broader list of like potentially possible investment
Right.
Instruments, and we sort of said some of those do put the principal at risk a little bit more, and for our purposes, and given that most of the time the money is relatively short term going out the door, we thought those riskier ones were not actually a good fit for us, so we've tried to make it a little more on the conservative side.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Sylvia. I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And then the cadence is quite different. I believe that the State Bar has different maturity targets that are much longer than ours. So it has a max maturity of 5 years. The IELTS distribution goes out once a quarter, every 3 months. So current practice with the CFO of the State Bar has been to make investment decisions in investments in instruments with 90-day maturity rates, T-bills primarily, with some discount notes. And that's on the approved list of the State Bar's investment policy. And then I don't know historically if there's been investment in certificates of deposit or money market accounts. My current knowledge is that the current investments are held in T-bills and discount notes.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I should say, I just have a question on D. Can you just go back to that for 1 second?
Sure.
So, you know, this appropriately says that we have to refrain from anybody that's involved with this, any commissioner, from personal business activities that could conflict with, et cetera. So is there any additional reporting to make sure that we're doing that? So we fill out the FPPC form, I think once a year. I'm not sure it actually covers this scenario, but maybe it does. So just wanting to make sure that it doesn't have to be answered now. It's just whatever we need to do to ensure compliance with D, that we have a process in place.
Yes, that Form 700 is required of commissioners as well as State Bar staff. And based on conversations with staff, but also general counsel, they thought that that covered questions around conflicts of interests as well as
okay, great.
ethics.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay.
And then it's a parallel structure, but this is the one for grantees.
Yeah, and I wondered if we wanted Selena to provide her additional comments before we started going through that, so we just hear that and then go through that. Does that work? Selena?
Fine with me.
Okay.
And also, I think, Erica, this gets to your question around what's happening right now. I heard from a lot of people. I've had to tag all my emails with the various groupings. And I think generally what I heard is that they appreciate, and Sylvia's already said this, they appreciate that this proposed rule makes it clear that you can invest State Bar funds. I know a lot of organizations, when they got their first 4-year IELTS grant, they did not invest anything, not even in CDs, because they weren't sure if it was permissible. And so everyone appreciates that this makes it really clear that it's permissible. I think what has been, what most of the responses have come back to me is that I don't think a single organization, maybe one, told me that they segregate and they just use IELTS is invested in this. For most organizations, they pool their funds. And so they may buy, I see Catherine nodding because she was an ED. They may buy a CD of $100,000. And a lot of organizations may ladder their investments, where they'll have a CD for 6 months, a CD for 9 months, and they mature at different times based on cash on hand. Several organizations said that they may have their IELTS, the first payment of IELTS or second payment of IELTS, and they may hold it in their money market account held with their primary bank that has a variable savings, variable interest rate. And so a lot of them said it actually would be impossible to get the B through F numbers for a lot of these, like especially for CDs and for money market accounts. And I think some said T-bills would be even hard if they are pooling their funds. And so what I heard is that, I think every organization agrees there should be board oversight. And every organization agreed that, they're not concerned about the restriction on the use of the interest or other gains. They definitely can report back that they will restrict those gains for appropriate uses or qualifying expenditures. But I did hear a lot about the difference between the different types of investments, whether they are equity investments or fixed income investments or kind of cash or cash equivalents investments. And a lot of them were worried about this additional burden for cash and cash equivalents for CDs and MMAs, where this reporting, several organizations will just not invest because they will be unable to report the level of detail, especially market value, maybe that's not as necessary, but if interest rates are variable and they're not really sure exactly like how much at any given moment, if they're pulling from that. So I'm happy to give more context, but I see, Erica, your hand is raised, and that's most of the comments were like, we can't do this with the way we invest.
Yeah, I think there's maybe, and maybe this is like, this is where I'm kind of curious if like if the rule is doing something different than maybe we intended. So I wanted to talk about it. I don't totally understand this issue of like, so for B, about the amount of IOLTA funds invested with each institution. Um, it seems like at least when they put the money into, like when they deposit it, they should know that, right? And then I think because there's got to be some list of a transaction of when they take the money that comes from us, right? We issue to them quarterly, and then they like put it into whatever investment account, whether it's a CD or something. Is that wrong? Because that seems like at least at a base level, they would know how much money from IOLTA they put in.
That's not what I do. And Catherine.
Okay, so yeah, so please explain to me how I'm getting that
You
wrong.
would know how much, I mean, I think it's a question of like, what does segregation and earmarking mean, right? So if I had four different, like I was going to buy a CD with four different funds, I would know the amount that I put in at the beginning. And I should, I think, be able to calculate the amount earned for each of those. So if I put in 50% from IOLTA and, the remaining percentages divided among other programs, I would be able to calculate the amount that was earned, I believe, for that. So I don't know if there's a problem with the wording or if people are unable to do what I just described, but that's what we would be able to do, what I would have been able to do when I was an ED.
Selena, you sound like you're saying you don't do that.
Well, I mean, I'm a smaller organization, and I think Catherine her experience represents a much larger organization that perhaps put away a lot more funds. But a lot of the smaller organizations, with the laddering, that money will come out and they will spend and report to IOLTA. But because IOLTA itself is flexible, when the dollar comes in, from the state bar, it's an IOLTA dollar, but then it becomes part of a bank account. And as they extend it, GAAP principles don't require that specific level of, this dollar has invested in this way and this interest amount is going to be connected to that dollar, especially when things kind of change throughout a quarter. You may invest something for a 3-month CD and it turns over. And so organizations can do easier, like, this is a percent of the total pot, but it's much harder to say, whatever.
So I understand that like money is fungible, right? So it's hard to say, well, let's track this dollar. This dollar went into this T-bill. This T-bill went into this interest rate. And I understand that that's like a level of detail that I'm not sure we are anticipating when we were putting together the rule. I think more, and I'm sorry, Dawn, to like cut in front of you. I just wanted to kind of like respond to this. I do think though that this is my other big question that I had as I was getting the feedback from Sylvia is like, if they're not currently tracking, so at least at a ratio level, how much of it is IOLTA, well then what are they doing with the interest, that the revenue that they're earning off of that? Are they not allocating that according to IOLTA? Like one of the big things, right, is it's fine if you invest, but any money you earn on that investment needs to go to our grant purposes, not to we don't provide principal for you to earn interest so that you can spend it on whatever, right? So I'm curious what they're doing now for those that are investing. How are they ensuring that the money the revenue they're earning from our funds is going back into purposes for our grants? And maybe if they're doing that, can we, if we need to, adjust the rules or the wording of the rules to accommodate how they're doing it? And if they're not doing it, well, then I think we have like a different question and we need to have a broader conversation about that. And that's why I think this rule is kind of necessary. So I'm curious to hear what it is how they're tracking that now.
Dawn, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think you guys both said this. I think from my perspective, the money going in is probably like a necessary thing to track, and I think probably very doable for programs. The money coming out is where it's hard because of the interest, and we're a large shop, right? So it's probably like Catherine's experience when we're very strict fund accounting. But I would say even with us, a large shop with strict, the money coming out has always been also a challenge for us too. So I have sympathy for programs. So I think some gauge that's reasonable, what that may be. I mean, the pro rata is always the nice, but here's the complication though. You put it in, and then the reinvestment part of that, because that's our challenge. You put it in, we get triggered by our CFO, how much you want to reinvest. And then I think then it all feels like the one pot. But I think I agree with Erica that there still needs to be something, right? So maybe, and I already said this to Erica, maybe it's not strict fund segregation, but there needs to be some barometer of a reasonable gauge that the money coming out has to be something so that there is some tracking mechanism, even if it's not down to the dollar or the cent. Like just some reason, give us something, right?
And I think that the feedback that meets the goal, which is don't use interest earned on state bar grants for non-qualifying expenses. Organizations, I think we're very responsive to the idea of making it very clear it's a board oversight. So there could be a click box that says, that basically gets to A, we have accounting policies and procedures in place to ensure investment income is properly earmarked to provide legal assistance to indigent persons or qualified legal services projects, period. Our board has oversight over this and it is part of our annual audit. So I think that organizations were willing to say, yes, we have this, we are able to do this, but all of the amounts, that's the piece that they would report to their board as part of an annual board financial presentation of the total interest or total gains earned. And they could probably tell their board roughly X% of state bar, but it's not going to be an exact dollar amount throughout time. And so it's hard to see the exact dollar amount of the interest or gains.
So Selena, then so you think only A is so if the state bar feels that it needs a way to know that the amount that you've earned in returns, so interest, whatever, is spent for allowed purposes, which is what the goal is, that A by itself does that. And then if the bar wanted to inquire further, what would it ask for? So it's fine, people can certify that I have policies that say I'm not spending it, but now there's going to be a trust fund audit every 3 years, let's say. So what is the documentation that programs would provide during the audit that shows that compliance with not spending returns on IOLTA funds? And that's, I think, what this rule is trying to capture. I'm not wedded to the words that are there. I'm just trying to figure out, like, at some point there's going to be an audit that the state bar does, and they're going to want to know that you in fact complied with A, and how can programs demonstrate that so we don't have confusion during the midst of the audit process.
Erica, did you want me to respond? I'll wait for you.
I mean, I think I'm going to say something somewhat akin, but I'll just flag this. I will say, I know that LAC said that the community's view is that they should just have to do an attestation and that's it. I'm not comfortable with that. I think if they're going to make this confirmation of accounting policies and procedures, why can't they share those policies and procedures with us? And then to the extent they don't change, maybe you can affirm after a year. If they do change, you have to provide us with that detail. But I still think there has to be somewhat to Catherine's point, some benchmark against which we have the right to say, well, that's not a sufficient policy or procedure to ensure these things. Because right now, confirmation, I mean, I can put in a policy that says like, I can put in any kind of policy and then say, I confirm it, it separates it. Okay. But I don't want to be in a fight later where we're saying, well, we don't think that's a sufficient. They saying, well, we do think it is. And rules say, all I have to do is tell you that I think it's sufficient and you have to accept it. So maybe we can change the amount of detail, and maybe it needs to be more at a principles level that says you know, here's an example of a way in which it works, but I am not comfortable with just an attestation or a confirmation. I think there needs to be a little bit more detail. In the same way that I'll just flag this, the other part of this policy requires us to provide all of that detail and information.
Well, the difference is that you're all, sorry, did I speak over somebody?
Yeah. Me, that's fine. Go ahead. The
Oh,
difference is
sorry, your audio went out for a second. I think the difference is that the Trust Fund Commission isn't pooling a whole bunch of funds in a different way, whereas you are investing your IOLTA interest for a period of time, and it's just usually just IOLTA interest, versus organizations maybe investing a little bit of their IOLTA that they don't need yet, versus a little bit of equal access fund if they may not need it yet, versus a grant that paid in advance, versus their unrestricted net assets that the board has asked them to invest. And I think that there will be a lot of organizations, based on what I've heard from the community, that will just not invest state bar money. I mean, many of them have said, well, fine, I'll just put all of my IOLTA grant in the operating reserve. I won't invest it because this level of detail will be too tough with the money coming in and money going out. So I think if the commission wants to encourage prudent investing, especially in the kind of lowest risk investments, the B through F is going to be really hard. And I mean, my best guess is a lot of these organizations where 95% of their work is qualified expenditures, that, they just want to say, we're going to invest it in work that benefits the community. We're not going to invest it in something that's not legal services. And so maybe on the other side of like, how is interest used is a better way to ensure that they're actually using the interest for qualifying work.
Selena, is it not possible to, it feels like I get that you're not going to segregate your funds by IOLTA. So I don't disagree with that, but wouldn't programs be able, like if I invested this money in, and it was with other funds, wouldn't there just be a pro rata calculation of what the interest earned was, and the program policy says what that looks like by way of example, so that the programs could, in policies that are reviewed, specify its methodology for determining the share of the returns that were IOLTA. And maybe to Erica's point, the policy gets submitted one time, and if it's not changed, it's fine. You just say, we haven't changed our policy. And then you've identified how you're going to know what the return is, what your methodology is. And then when the bar does its audit, which it will do, then you can show that what you did was consistent with what was in your policy.
I would actually love to hear from organizations, because I know we still have whatever 15 at least there. I mean, I'm looking at emails I got from folks who said, we maintain a certain amount of our current assets in our checking account to cover the ebbs and flows of cash and expenses, which is what all of us do. And they put the rest in CDs, and they don't designate the source of funds in the operating reserves or CDs because GAAP principles don't require it. But, they can say roughly what percentage, but with every ladder of a CD maturing and another CD going in, it would be a fiction to look in the past and say X% was IOLTA versus a grant that got paid early. And I can't even tell you, I lost count how many EDs said we just won't invest state bar grants.
I got that, but I mean, they're not required to. So this is trying to say, like, to have some reasonable rule about, at both sides, right? Reasonable to the programs, and know that the bar has what it needs, right? And so I don't know whether it can be resolved in this sort of meeting, or whether we should have the committee sort of look at the input and noodle through with staff, whether there's a shorter way to do this, not requiring all of that level of detail that's in B through wherever it ends, right? Like that's one approach. So Tuan and Erica.
Yeah, I guess is the question. I know, Selena, you can answer this, but is it both B, the F, all those details, and the frequency? Because I wonder if maybe pulling out of the IELTS and EF and putting into monitoring visits where it's every 3 years, unless there are other compliance issues, and it's more frequent, and then perhaps taking a look at B and F and seeing like what's essential, and then if you're doing it, then in 3 years' time, then we'll do, like, is that maybe that might be more palatable so we get a little bit more of something because right now we don't ask for anything. So I think asking more of anything would be helpful just to have some confirmation. But then, yeah, you'd be on a 3-year cycle. At that 3 years, when you're up for a monitoring visit, you can show us what your policy is on how to track these things that's been board approved. So we know that there's board oversight on it. Then you can share with our staff, like how you walk us through how you do the calculation, show us, and we know this is like only a moment in time, right? So you're not, I mean, that's really what it is, right? We just want to make sure there's a sound way. There is some accountability for this, some tracking mechanism that's like reasonable, and you do it every once or 3 years, once every 3 years.
I just quickly add that so I said that Jeff Ball, the former commissioner, found that from a fiscal perspective, the rules were fine. The only thing that he commented on is that the standard practice is not annual review, but it's reviewed twice a year. So I just wanted to include that in terms of cadence. So the norms of just overseeing investment activity, I had kept it as annual, but apparently the norm is.
But is that maybe the norm of like the organization? Because then we can say maybe the organization does that every 2 years, but maybe not as a funder. I don't know if that, I don't know personally, like if that is necessary for our oversight responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that cadence information, how to validate, when to validate.
Okay, thanks, Sylvia. Erica, and then Selena.
Thanks. I mean, the other thing I would say, and like, look, I sort of warned Sylvia about this. I will say, it's given the feedback from the community, we just may need to do some more education and then tweak some of this. That's fine. I don't have a problem continuing to work on this. But I would say, if there are these accounting policies and procedures, could a couple organizations send those to us and like show us what they're doing? Because then that might help us get a sense of like what is currently working for them, what and why it would be, what about the sort of transparency we're seeking is so difficult. And I understand maybe the policy is nothing more than we pool everything together, we invest it wherever, we then use the money, and our policy is as long as it's used on qualified expenditures, it does not matter what money we use. Like, right? I mean, and if it and because, I mean, that only provide qualified expenditure, like, I mean, that's okay. That's what I want to find out, right? Is that's the policy? Like they always ensure that all the money goes, even if it's different grants, right? Like I don't even know what different kinds of grants they're pooling together. Is it all like legal service grants, right? Are there grants that they're getting that are not legal service, right? Because some of our organizations don't just provide legal services, even if it is their primary purpose, right? Some of them, provide 40% of non, legal services that aren't, right? We've had these debates. So if you're pooling grants for that work and our work, well then how are you complying with both grants? So that's where I just think we need a little bit more information about maybe what they're currently doing in order to tailor this. To Catherine's point, this is to be permissive. If they don't ultimately at the end think that it's worth, the juice is worth the squeeze, then, we obviously want the money to be used. But the funds, NEA funds we've let them have more years, but they don't have to do the investment. This is something where if they think it's worth it to them, they can do it. But I'm just not comfortable with like a box checking saying like, yep, we did what we were supposed to do, because then later I think there's going to be potentially questions that come up. So I would encourage, especially for organizations that are currently listening, if you want to share with me and with Sylvia, since I am the working group, like what you're doing and what you think would be a good model, I would love to see it, and then we can, and if you want to have a feedback session with me and Sylvia, like I'm up for having that and being able to ask those questions directly. So I don't want to say we shouldn't pass it today, but if that's what we need is more information, I'm happy to go get that more information.
Okay, thanks, Erica. And then go ahead to I was going to call on Selena and then Dwan, but did somebody else have something to say? Okay, Selena.
I think another feedback session is really helpful because I do think that as part of an organization's audit, you will see all of their investment income. You'll see all of the gains that they may have had at that year. And that could be part of the financial report to the bar. When people submit their audit, they also have something that says of the interest earned, X% was from IOLTA investments, we affirm that all of this is earmarked. So there can be a dollar amount, but the level of detail here is difficult, but I think if it's connected to an audit, they can just say, yes, 150% of this interest was actually used for qualified expenditure. So we're certain that we did not use any IOLTA interest for inappropriate cost. So if there's a way that it can be connected to the audit, that may make it less burdensome for organizations.
Okay, and Dwan?
I was going to say, that's actually a really good idea. If it is, and I don't know if it's possible or if it's going to be cost prohibitive but if it is, that probably is for us, the audit is always like the gold standard for us because it's somebody going in and testing, and then we just get the confirmation. But I was going to say, because I heard you say that there are a lot of programs that would, if it seems too cumbersome, would not choose to invest. If there are programs like that are on here that are listening, I would encourage you to not have that mindset. I mean, I understand if you're a really tiny program, it might not make sense and you have to pull it together. But really, if you're a mid-size and you're a larger organization, it is so easy to open up a CD and put that money in there. It takes virtually no effort. So please do not have that mindset. If that's what you have, please come talk to me or come talk to Selena before you choose to go that route.
So I feel like we're not necessarily in a place, given the additional feedback, to approve this. So I might like to take Erica up on the offer of working with LAC and some programs to see, and bar staff to see if this can be refined in a way that does not have all of the detail, but still meets the bar's need. And then we could bring it back at the next meeting. Does that make sense? Erica, did you have a comment about my idea?
Yes, I'm totally fine with that. I do think if no one has any issues with the bar's investment policy, I would like to separate that out and get that approved, just so this way we're done with that and then that's kind of in place. Happy to meet with whoever. And I didn't mean to be so glib before. I echo Dwan's point. Like, I do want to encourage organizations to make investments. That's why I'm welcoming having more feedback sessions to try to tailor this in a way where we can get the transparency we need and organizations can feel like we're not overburdening them and that they feel incentivized to do that, But I just did also want to flag nothing in here we're trying to do is mandatory. So
yeah.
So, but yeah, if we could separate it out.
I like your idea. How about a motion to approve the part?
I'll make the motion to approve the 3.663, the proposed rule.
And so we would just take out 3.684, right? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just take that out.
Okay, it's actually a short change. So is there a second to Erica's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amin. Are there other questions about the resolution as it's on the screen? Okay. No questions or comments. There's a motion and a second. So Erica, I think you're doing the roll call. So if you could do that, that would be great.
Sure. Al-Sarraf?
Yes.
Connolly?
Yes.
Wong? Mahoney? Sandville?
Yes.
Blakemore?
Yes.
4 yeses, no nos, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you for all the great public comment, for Selena for the additional information, and Erica, all your work, and along with Sylvia's work. And we look forward to hearing more from you at the next meeting. Thanks so much. I think that's going to take us to 4.2, which is the discussion regarding the support center requirements. And I think we're going to start that with a staff presentation from Erica and Kim.
Thanks, Catherine. Kim is just joining as a panelist, and we'll bring up the PowerPoint.
That's great.
Everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge both Erica and Kim's hard work of conducting focus groups and beginning to think through what rules look like and all of that as we just begin the discussion. It has been, I know, a lot of work for both of you, so thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you to our entire working group who's been instrumental in this process. Can folks, oh, hold on one second. I'm going to try to share my slides. We just had a fabulous Windows 11 update at the State Bar. And I know
it happens in the middle of something.
Yes, I know everyone enjoys a Windows update. And because of that, I'm just making sure it works the same as it always has. 1 second. Okay, so to share my screen, we're going to share this presentation with our working group members who have been so critical in guiding the process. And let's see. There we go. Can folks see the slides?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Erica. All right. So hello, Kim Turner, State Bar Office of Access and Inclusion, Senior Program Analyst, joined with Erica and our esteemed working group members. Also, just to add, I formerly worked for State Bar grantees and have so much appreciation, grantee organizations, so much appreciation for the grantees that do this work, and our staff and commissioners that also make it possible. So we have, I just want to kind of table set to mention, we have about an hour scheduled for this conversation because there is a lot to it. We're going to explain the big picture in a moment, but we have a few segments that we're going to cover today. Erica, before I get into some of the other background, did you want to add anything else before we kick off?
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Erica and I are going to share a couple slides just with background. Want to also mention that we did some of this table setting in the May Rules Committee meeting. And so some of you have heard this background. Some of you have not heard it because either you weren't at the meeting or, for whatever reason, weren't attending that or up to date. So we're going to repeat a few things for anyone who might be new to the big picture. And that relates to our value of transparency that I think Catherine talked about, and how having everyone really on the same page is important to us. Okay, so today we're going to do a little background. We're going to talk about the topics of support center rules that we're looking at this year, the timeline. Erica will get into some of the details on the phase 2 topics, significant level and statewide, that we're tackling for today's meeting. And we'll also look at the relevant authorities and guidelines. We want to share with folks what are we looking at in terms of the business and profession codes, the State Bar rules, and the guidelines. And then we're getting into the substance of the discussion with significant level statewide, and then it's 3.680 of the State Bar rules that we also want to ensure is considered in this process. And we'll finally close out with some next steps reminders, and always a giant thank you, because it really takes a village to work on these topics. So I am now going to share it with Erica to look at the impetus for rule amendments.
Yeah, thank you. I think broadly, and we've talked about this is not just for support centers, but the codification process. We have 3 really main goals of transparency, consistency, and currentness, essentially, making sure that the rules updates are transparent and that they can be relied upon by staff, by the commission, by our grantees, especially, that what we're trying to do is eliminate or reduce any gray areas or confusion that could potentially lead to misapplication or different emphasis depending on who might be reading these rules. We want even newcomers to the rules to be able to read them and comply as needed. So That's really one of the big emphases in looking at these rules in particular. And as well as Catherine and Kim both mentioned that some of these rules are quite dated and perhaps not the most relevant to current practice. And so we want to make them user-friendly, essentially, and relevant to the work that you're all doing. So, throughout the process, our working group, our feedback from the community, our communication with LAC, we want to make sure that everybody is involved in the discussion and on the same page about what's happening.
Thanks, Erica. And we just have a little bit more information on the background. We also want to flag that we understand, there is transition in organizations. And as an example of the feedback we've gotten from legal aid groups, we really want to hear that feedback throughout this process. We are pleased that there are lots of junctures for input along the way that have happened in the past, that are happening now, today, and will happen in the future. But we also have heard that there's turnover, for example, in leadership at support centers, and them getting to know how these rules work and how they're applied, and what that looks like day to day is really important, and making it digestible so that it's easy to understand and put into practice. So Erica, did you want to share more on the big picture with our grantees?
I think that's is that the next slide? Sorry.
Oh, did it show? I don't know if is our slide 4 showing with the support center dollars?
Yes. Okay.
Perfect.
So currently we have 115 state bar grantees. The majority of those, the vast majority, are qualified legal services projects. We have 93. I think, as has been mentioned in some of the public comment, we have a growing community. Over the past few years, we've had a significant number of applications that have come in, particularly from QLSPs, and we have a fairly consistent and solid cohort of support centers. We've had one new support center in the past few years, so we're up to 22. And then with the funding picture for support centers in the 2025 grant year, as we all know, there's been a large increase in IOLTA funds, and so support centers are receiving about 1.7 million in IOLTA this year, and about 218,000 in EAF funds. And so providing guidance on the use of those funds and clarity around the use of those funds is paramount.
Thanks, Erica. I'll also just maybe kick off this next slide and then pass it back to Erica. But what I was really struck by when we started talking about the support center topics, which folks know is actually bridged back to last year in 2024, is that there's a lot of moving parts involved, and those moving parts relate to one another. So one thread affects another thread, and this is really woven together about support center work and how it relates to QLSP work. So we really wanted to tackle this bit by bit so as to provide as much opportunity for input and weighing in. So we spoke in May at the May Rules Committee meeting about our phase 1 topics, which you see there are legal training, legal technical assistance or advocacy support, and an office space in California, and national work benefiting California by support centers. So we very generally spoke about those topics in May. If anyone wants to see the recording for the slides that we had, they're available online. So you can relive that whole meeting. And, for folks, just as a reminder, today is about phase 2 topics, because we wanted this to be piecemeal and digestible. So I'll turn it to Erica to cover those, but to flag that I know some of the earlier very helpful public comment spoke a bit more globally about some of the rule amendments, which makes sense. But for today, what's on deck for today are these phase 2 topics and less the entire package. And there's going to be more ahead coming up in the coming months and weeks where legal aid could provide more input. So Erica, do you want to share about phase 2 topics?
Sure. So the way the statute is structured for support centers, it's essentially a 2-part test in terms of having a primary purpose of providing legal training, technical assistance, or advocacy support is sort of the first part, which, as Kim described, we went over in more depth at the May meeting. And then the second part of the statute for the definition of a support center talks about providing a significant level of these support services to qualified legal services projects and actually provides those services on a statewide basis. And so we're going to be digging into what the definition of significant level and statewide means, how it can be operationalized. And then we'll talk a little bit about some other topics and terminology that are related to these concepts or the rules overall, that might need essentially to be cleaned up or clarified. And then, Kim, did you want to do the feedback sessions or? Yeah, great.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we also want to share with folks that we had really productive, and Selena mentioned too, that it was, I think, quite productive and positive sessions with legal aid community members in early August. We had 2 focus group sessions. We wanted to make sure scheduling was as flexible as possible. And we invited every single state bar grantee to participate. So anyone and everyone, not at all limited, could come to these sessions. And we sent reminders and all those things to make sure people could onboard with those sessions. And then we also shared email addresses after the sessions to make sure that if folks had additional comments or questions that they could share those. So very much, porous borders for input and insights. We really appreciate those. And the sessions were instructive to us as to where the grantees, and, we had, I don't have the exact number in front of me, probably around 8 organizations represented at each session. And like I said, we welcomed anyone and everyone to come, but we got some great questions, some great ideas. We can thread those questions and ideas into the later discussion today. But I think overall, there was a sense, and feel free, others, Erica, to Selena, chime in on what you sensed, but we really felt that there was a shared recognition that updating the rules was reasonable because, they hadn't been changed in a long time. And we'll talk in a minute about what the rules currently say. It's very bare bones. The actual rules are quite sparse in their explanation. And it made sense to update them because of that and because of the evolving nature of work. We talked in these sessions about things like remote work becoming more common these days. And so something like California office space would reasonably change a little bit as people are not in bricks and mortar offices all the time. So those were some examples of discussion points, and we're happy, as needed, to provide more information on those sessions, but they were generally just very helpful. And we tried to also reassure folks that we're so much on the same team. We very much want grantees to thrive in doing their work. We want, as Catherine mentioned, transparency and clarity. And this has been a long running process at the State Bar to make sure the rules are updated. So I think everyone understood that. Erica, others want to add on the legal aid input sessions that were in early August?
That was great. Thanks.
Okay. And then just to flag, phase 3 would be deeming. We're looking at of deeming in 2026, which is another portion of the rules that of course is important. And we're looking at dating. So, all right, now we do just want to spend not much time, but want to flag, and you'll have these in the slides and folks could pause the recording in the future if they want to study this in depth, but we wanted to explain the actual authorities animating the discussion, which is the Business and Professions Code, section 6213 and 6215 in particular. And for today's purposes, it's really 6213. The State Bar rules are we're putting on the screen these rules that are relevant to the discussion. So anyone can pull those up from Smart Simple or on the web if they want every word. And then the guidelines. These are the eligibility guidelines for support centers that are on Smart Simple that have also been around many years. And those are just some examples I put on the slide there. So there's other provisions that have a lot of detail about how support centers are expected to conduct their work. And as I understand it, the guidelines are going to be phased out. So one of the efforts, or one of the efforts of the State Bar rule of updates, is to make sure anything in the guidelines that should be in the rule is in the rule, and things that don't make sense to import into the rule would not be imported. So we wanted to flag that update. And then just so you have it on your screen, feel free again to pause if you look at the recording later, but here is 6213 and 6215. And we're going to be focusing a great deal with Catherine and Amin's help on significant level and statewide today. But this is the very simple section 6213 that explains how support center work is done. And And then these are the rules that we've been looking at this last year. And again, we've underlined significant level on statewide basis. You see 3.670B is very simple and very short. And so part of this process is making sure that people understand what does significant level mean and what does statewide basis mean. And when we say everyone, it's the work being done, the people in the organizations, and then state bar staff that are looking at the work, as well as the commission and any other stakeholders involved. All right, so lastly, I just want to share, and again, folks are, just have to pull it up on their own computers at their own leisure, because there's a lot to cover and we don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but we wanted to flag these are excerpts of the eligibility guidelines for support centers. And you can see some of the commentary that grantees and state bar staff have relied on through the years to guide some of the decisions made and the application of dollars. So we can also toggle back to these authorities if people ever need us to do so during the conversation, if you want to look at anything. And I think with that, we've table set. The table is large, well set. Anything else prefacing before we dive into significant level, one of our topics for today, and then we'll pass it to Catherine for that section. All right, thank you. So Catherine, I'll advance slides as you need me to.
Okay, that sounds great. As Kim said, we're going to talk about, and we're interested in additional input about what is significant level. I want to just reflect on the comments we got earlier. One that Selena made, which is really the importance about communication and maybe collaboration between qualified legal services programs and support centers about what support centers do, how those services can be accessed, and maybe some new ways of thinking about what that looks like. I don't know if that necessarily belongs in the rule, but there might be some strategies. And so to the extent, Selena, you have ideas about should the state bar staff or the trust fund commission have a role in any of that, supporting those kinds of communications collaborations, I think we'd be interested in hearing that. And then I also heard the comments that I think 3 or 4 programs made about what does significant level mean and sort of the changing landscape in the legal aid community, and what is the impact of maybe what I would describe their concerns about being rigid rules about significant level and how they can achieve that when they're providing more specialized services. So I just want you to know we've heard that and we'll keep that in mind as well. But we'll start with just, are there other general considerations of what significant level means that you would want the working group and ultimately the rules committee and commission to consider? And you can see it was shared before, but the rules and guidelines have the sort of general reference to significant levels. So other comments and questions from people on the rules committee about that, or things we should be thinking about? Okay, I'm not seeing Erica. Okay? I couldn't tell that was your hand or
Yeah, no, all I was going to say is I don't have sort of general, but I'm really curious to get into like kind of the specific questions that you guys have. I'm sorry, I pulled up the slides as the attachment.
Yeah.
So very excited to talk about through those. But I just didn't want you to think I don't have comments and questions, just
I
not at the
almost
high
always
level.
would guess that you have comments and questions, which will be very helpful.
I'm excited. Let's dig in.
Okay, so I'm not seeing anything else about this slide. Let's go to the next one. So frequency of support services. Support services are what I sort of categorize as what the legal training and technical assistance that support centers provide, and multi-office considerations. So under, I think it's the guidelines now, there is, if you provide support to more than one office of a legal aid program, it just counts as one touch to one program. It's not 2 touches to a program. And I think we're trying to noodle through what does that mean. And programs are all very different. The program I used to operate not only had like 30 offices, but also had like 3 or 4 very distinct programs that would be interested in different areas of support from that. And so is that something we should think about, sort of this multi-office or multi-program consideration as we're thinking through this rule? So that's the first question that we're interested in. Erica, did you have thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds interesting. It's interesting to hear from the folks who were who commented, because I think I am sensitive to the fact that some of the support centers may have slightly more niche expertise, which is what makes them so valuable, right? And so I'm not sure that I feel like having, multiple, so long as you have technology or the means by which to provide sort of regular and consistent services. And I assume regular and consistent is not currently in the statute or the rules. This is just kind of
Your
guys'
a guideline in that,
Okay.
right? So it's not, I don't think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, Carol, or Kim, if it's in the statute, but I don't think so. In the rule, rule or statute.
Yeah, not as specific in the rule or statute. Sorry, Erica, but in the guidelines, there's more detail. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I was going to agree that it's really the eligibility guidelines that flesh out this requirement that the statute and rules are basically a restate. The rule is essentially a restatement of the statute, and the statute is not particularly descriptive.
Okay.
Catherine and Erica Connolly, maybe also just to give a little more context, and I think, Catherine is piecing this out really helpfully, but, these two things, this slide and the next slide interact, and I'll just maybe just preview it, because this idea of helping a multi-office organization relates to this touches threshold that, so as it's been in recent years, the idea is that the support centers had to help at least 10 QLSPs, or, to show as part of their showing of significant level. And to Catherine's earlier point, in a large organization, if you helped one office of, an organization that has 5 offices, it was considered as one touch. And so,
oh, sorry. Okay, I got the multi-office confused.
yeah.
I thought you meant the support centers had to have multi-offices. My bad.
Yeah, it's a little confusing sometimes. So like I sometimes come with a very basic 101. And I think this again helps for those new support center EDs or new staff or new grants managers at, say, QLSPs who are not understanding this system. So that's kind of the baseline that we're trying to assess. And thank you, Catherine, for summarizing those helpful comments in the public comment, is that there's talk of quotas or talk of, rigid rules, and trying not to be too rigid. So we're trying in our working group and with different junctures of input to figure out what does significant level of legal support services from support centers to QLSPs look like. And right now it's 10 touches, which means you've helped 10 QLSPs. And what would maybe be more meaningful and more textured in the rules to show that you indeed are helping QLSPs at a significant level. Erica, do you have more prefacing to add to that kind of, it's sort of the issue statement at the top of the memo?
Mm-hmm. No, that's good.
Okay, why don't we,
but it's interesting.
Go ahead, Erica.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, but it's interesting. I'm looking at like the next slide on the
I was going to pull up the next slide.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like 10 feels like there's like this description of it being a quota, but then we sort of also say that that's a low amount. And so I'm very torn about this, because I could see a situation where a support center has a very niche, kind of legal area, which is why it's so important. And maybe only a few QLSPs need help with that. Yeah, I guess I'm like, wow, these are really good questions, is really what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I don't know if I have any good answers though. I'm curious if what Amin and Jonathan have to, if they have thoughts on this too.
I think Amin has been part of the working group and part of the discussion, so he might
Yeah.
add some texture and nuance to this.
It looks like Jonathan went off mute, so I'll let Jonathan start and then I can jump in.
Perfect, that sounds great.
No, I was just looking at this. I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay, this is something that we struggle with. We had a lot of deep discussion about this because it's a challenge and it gets to some of the things that we heard from folks about, the number of QLSPs who provide services that are consistent with what the support center provides in terms of support, topic areas, that sort of thing. And there is the quantity doesn't necessarily help. Sort of focusing on quantity doesn't necessarily help us capture what the value is that's added by the support centers. But at the same time, we also, need to be able to quantify it because we need to be able to measure the success and the effectiveness of a support center in some way that is not purely qualitative, or that's not purely, like a narrative discussion of it, and create some standards that work that work across the board. So, it is a challenge, and I think it's been helpful to hear from programs, and I'd love to hear more from folks and from others in the committee about. But my sense and the things that we've talked about in our working group meetings is that there is a way to thread this needle without being so having a standard that is so onerous on programs, that we sort of cut out the sort of ability for programs to be able to satisfy what our standard is, or on the other hand, that we don't also set a bar low enough that we're not actually, investing this money that we've been entrusted with to support programs who are providing support services to QLSPs. And so I think, our thought is that the way it's captured now is not necessarily doing the job that we'd like it to do. And so we're sort of we're working on it. So that's kind of the context that we've come into these discussions with. We'd love to hear more from others. Looks like we've got some hands up. So
Yeah, Dwan and then Erica Carroll.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I echo, this is a really kind of hard, we've talked about this in this office like for many years now, because it's always felt like 10 was kind of a low number, but I do have sympathy for the programs. I think a couple of them spoke at the front end about it feeling like a quota, because we don't do this for QSPs, right? For QSPs, they apply, and though they kind of describe what their outcomes are, we don't have this barometer in terms of at the eligibility level that if you're serving a certain number of clients or you're opening a certain number of cases, that then you will qualify. So I just say that to note that the tension there, it feels awkward. And for me, the barometer that's always been, I think, a little bit more meaningful, but we don't kind of utilize it in that way, is the deeming. Because at the end of the day, right, like I think what we care about is that a support center is being of service to QSPs, and QSPs feel that they are of service for them. But I do think the way the deeming has been run in our office and how it's evolved over the year, that it's a bit more administrative than what it could have been used as a tool to kind of measure that meaningfulness, and to give the commission and the staff some assurance that like we're funding. And now that the dollar amount for support centers are very high. I mean, it's I think 1.7 last year, maybe 1.4 this year. It's a very high number, right? We're not giving out insignificant grant. How does then that reconcile with like what what their statutory, what we're requiring them? If you measure it against like a $1.4 million grant, 10 does feel to me, even if you're niche, low. But then yeah, I'm just noting the quota piece of it feels uncomfortable. So I hear programs when they have that that remark. again, so not a good answer, just to recap, it's just a very hard question.
Yeah. Okay, Erica Carroll and then Erica Connolly.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to underscore some of the feedback. You heard it in the public comment, but that we really did, I think, get some of the strongest feedback in the sessions that we had about this potential change when we broached the topic of, the touch points with QLSPs, moving to something more like a proportion of existing QLSPs. We had floated like 25%, for example, of existing QLSPs so that the rule wouldn't have to change every time the community grew or changed in size. But even something that would provide that flexibility, you heard from them today, organizations that are a little more niche, they have no control over the QLSPs that have different practice areas that are not relevant to them, and not that they don't want to help them, but that, there's just a little bit of a mismatch in that regard, but that doesn't mean that they're not providing meaningful services to existing grantees. And so there was that concern. And then I think what we heard today, which I didn't hear as much of in the sessions, but was helpful to hear, was the aspect of like the depth of the expertise and the relationship with QLSPs that need those services. I think to me, that's the area where it's a challenge to put down on paper like what that means, or how you can demonstrate conformity with something like that. So interested to hear others' thoughts on that, or take that back to the working group. But and my other thing I was going to say about the multi-office aspect is kind of to Catherine's point, that you might have a large organization that actually operates throughout the state and could use those services. And it feels, I understand that the importance of making sure it's available to all QLSPs if they need the services, but that there are meaningful differences in size and scope of practice for some of the QLSPs. And so if you're serving a really large organization and serving all of their offices, shouldn't that be recognized in some way? So.
Okay, thanks for that, Erica. And now the next Erica C.
Thanks. So I have sort of two things I wanted to flag. One, I totally take the point about not having to have like a kind of quota for QLSPs. The one, and I'm curious to hear, because I haven't been like sort of noodling this as much, but I do think there is some difference in the sense that QLSP's funding amount sort of depends on the amount of qualified expenditures. So there is some proportionality about how much money they get based on how much work they provide, even if it's not a case number, right? Whereas, and I may have this wrong, but I thought support centers, everyone gets the same amount kind of regardless, right? So having a barometer on eligibility doesn't feel quite as disparate when you get the same amount, no matter what your actual hours are. Whereas the QLSPs, in order to have the zero sum game, have to show the work. So that's just one kind of flag. The other thing all of this is kind of making me think of, not that I want to like go back to this, but like I sort of remember we did this with like something similar with like the pro bono allocation. That we've had a few of these where we're like, there's a number, and if you meet the number, you're in. But if you don't meet the number, here's your other way of getting in. I don't know that I love those, but we have used those. And I sort of think we have familiarity with that structure. So I wonder if maybe I'm just throwing this out again, having not noodled on this. This is purely me just reacting in the moment, but like that might be a way to kind of get to this like 25%, but here's sort of some other criteria you could look at, such as, yeah, we only support 2 organizations, but those organizations are huge and they need they need us all the time, and we do something really specific for them, and whatever. The one thing I will say, and I don't know how this cuts actually, is in some ways, I feel like requiring this kind of outreach in order to get more touches might sort of require the support centers to invest in like marketing. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. On the one hand, I don't, we want them to be doing the research and that kind of stuff, but their value is in being a very available resource. So maybe it's not the worst thing to kind of nudge them into marketing. I don't know. I'm just that's what a lot of this has triggered for me, is like, how much are they doing kind of, are we requiring them to do outreach? And maybe that means that maybe that outreach is you're doing more trainings, you're like calling up more, firms and saying, or, like QLSPs and being like, hi, here's what we have to offer, blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to take that away from doing the actual expertise, but that would make it, there is some nudge to like letting these QLSPs know you're available. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Erica. And I think those are some of the things we've been trying to think about. Like, how do you do something different at the front end? The requirement now is you notify programs, meaning the ED, like once a year of the availability of your services. But like in this world, like that just feels like it gets lost in email somewhere, right? Or in the regular snail mail. So anyway, we're thinking, I think, similarly to you. But anyway, on to Amin and Selena and then Erica Carroll. And then maybe we'll move on to the last slide just because I want to be mindful of the time I was supposed to have, which might have already elapsed. Go ahead, Amin.
Yeah, so Erica, you picked up on some really important things that we've been grappling with, and I think I wanted to touch on 2 things. One is also the latter comment that you made about marketing, and I think this is also, it's an ecosystem discussion, because I think there's a lot that can be enhanced in some of the things that we've been doing as a commission in terms of the office and things that the office has been doing, Legal Services Trust Fund program, to sort of better connect QLSPs with support centers to enhance like a visibility, enhance, the connections, the connectivity between them, so that, we've heard anecdotally, I think at least, that there's some QLSPs who are operating and saying, I don't know what a support center does or can offer or is, or how do I, and so and LAC, obviously we can work together as well, like to help enhance that and sort of help support centers do better and meet these standards, right? This is not just like, hey, support centers, you're on your own to go out and find, like, there are resources that we can offer and that we can help promote to, and that obviously enhances not just the ability of support centers to continue doing their work, but then the QLSPs to do their work. And maybe, generally we're broadening the ability for legal services to be provided across the state. So I think there's a lot, the ripple effects of this could be hopefully beneficial. That's part of our thought process. The other part that does make this a challenge, and you touched on it, Erica, and it's something that, it's sort of a reality that we're having to contend with, is the nature of how this funding is set up, so that each of these support centers is getting the same amount of money. And so therefore we are sort of comparing apples and oranges, but to an apples amount of money, right? I don't know if that's the right way of capturing this, but like it is a challenge to make those comparisons so that we can get a standard across the board that says, when we spend, $1 on this support center, is it the same return or the same amount of impact that we're getting when we put that same dollar in another support center where they're doing different work and they're doing, so it is a challenge. We're looking for, creative feedback from folks as we go through this, but wanted to acknowledge, this is the reality of the way that this funding puts us in this position. But we do appreciate, for those support centers out there, we appreciate the work that you're doing and are hoping to kind of help enhance that. So I'll step down at Selena, let Selena go.
Thanks, Amin.
I think that like the balance between quality and quantity is so difficult. And, we've been convening support center meetings since, for probably 40 years now. And a lot of folks say, 1 hour phone call with me as a support center could actually help someone win their case. And that's one touch. And also co-counseling with a QLSP, which could take 4 years of litigation, is also one touch. And so the touch is just a really hard measure because it doesn't show how much energy is put into that. But so I think like this is going to be really hard for y'all to figure out how to measure the quantity and quality. But another thing I just wanted to raise, which I think comes out a lot in the ILAW reports, is who is the beneficiary? And in most of the support centers, not only are they looking at the QLSP's needs, but they're also looking at the needs of the community. And some support centers are providing services when the QLSPs in the area cannot provide those services. And I'm worried that that's going to be even more true under the current federal administration, where some organizations may need to pull back some of their services. And so some support centers may need to step up in a different way. And it may be even harder to track those referrals. So just flagging that the kind of referral tracking system you've had in the past has worked. It may even be more difficult as organizations are trying to landscape analysis, see where there are needs and meet those needs.
Well, and I think, Selena, that in some ways goes to the definition of what is support center work, right? And when are you really becoming doing the work, QLSP work versus support center work? And it's just a knot of things, I think, to try and untangle a little bit and be clearer about too. So anyway, but thank you for your thoughtful comments. And so Erica.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that again in our discussions with support centers a few weeks ago, there was a lot of, I guess, enthusiasm or support for the idea of connecting sports centers to QLSPs using, state bar resources or existing networks to have greater overlap, because a lot of sports centers, kind of to Amin's point, like some QLSPs say they're not as familiar with sports centers, and a lot of sports centers say they do the work to try to reach out, but maybe it's not as effective for some reason. They're not hitting the right, they're maybe not reaching the staff attorneys or those who might be interacting with them more regularly if they were aware. And so not that that's necessarily going into the rule, but we recognize these broader concerns that we can also address through this process. And so I think that's definitely something that we can take up and think through more. And then to Erica Connolly's prior point about with QLSPs, there is some sort of validation of the value of their services because they have this qualified expenditures tie to their award amount. Representative of all QLSPs, but that we have received some feedback that in terms of perception of fairness with award amounts, that given the standards for sports centers are not tied that way, that there is desire to have a better measure of the value of their services. And so I just to note that there is, at least for some in the community, that perception that maybe that is not, the standard is not the same.
So thanks for that. And I think Kim helpfully put up at some point our next slide, and we've kind of morphed into that already, that part of the challenge is really about what gets counted, right? And not everything's the same, which I think is the point Selena was making, that I mean, here, these were some examples, I think, from the guidelines or practices that have been talked about before, but sending a newsletter is a very different activity than helping a QLSP with complex litigation that goes on for 4 years. And so part of what we're trying to think about is, what is the quantitative measure and how does that connect back to the qualitative measure, if there is a qualitative measure? So anyway, if people have comments about that, I want to be mindful that we need to kind of move on to the next topic, which will be equally interesting because it's about
Catherine, if I can just
Yeah.
really quick, building on all these great comments, and we're great on time, so thank you for being mindful for that. I would just want to add that if anyone wants to peruse in their leisure, the eligibility guidelines on support centers. It's basically a whole page on significant level that tries to encompass that qualitative and quantitative analysis. And I think there has been in the past and continues to be a hope of being multidimensional in seeing those services. And even at one point in the guidelines, it says numbers alone will not be the sole test. And so I've really appreciated our working group members and how much light they're holding around the multifaceted work the support centers do, and how, yeah, co-counseling for 4 years versus 1 hour of TA are different things and both powerful. So I just want to flag that. And then something I'm really excited about is our working group has been talking about, this is not just about the state bar rules. This is about a whole ecosystem of stakeholders and processes and channels and communication. So the rules can be amended and updated, great, but the state bar helping connect support centers and QLSPs and using LACS resources and other connections to make sure that, yes, QLSPs know support centers are out there, because they don't always know. I had a monitoring visit yesterday with an 8-year QLSP attorney who said she did not know what a support center was. And she was so excited about it because she couldn't wait to reach out and get help on legal training that she does herself, that now a support center can be doing for her. But she's been around a long time and not a new QLSP at all. And then secondly, marketing, to this point that we heard in our focus groups that a lot of support centers send email after email to say, we are doing a great training, we are doing something you should come to, and they don't always respond on the QLSP side, which makes sense because people are busy. So there's just more than the rules that we can do to strengthen these relationships, and we're really excited about that. And this rules process is evidencing and surfacing those exciting opportunities. So I want to flag that before we get to our next item. Thanks, Catherine.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody on the call, in the committee or staff about the quality that hasn't come up before? I thought Kim, you did a helpful summary. So, okay, I'm not seeing other comments. So why don't we go to the next rule? I think we have 2 more things to cover, and then there'll be an opportunity for just more general comments, I think, at the end. So that'd be great.
Thank you,
Good
Catherine. Yeah, I teed up statewide for Amin, and happy to pass over to you.
Great, thank you, Kim, and thank you, Catherine. So, yeah, not also a challenging aspect of this is the portion of the rule requiring that the support services that are provided be provided on a statewide basis in California. And our goal has been to try to understand and develop what the intention and importance of on a statewide basis means, and how we can define that better, or define that at all, and measure it. And I'll sort of walk through some of these questions, and would love, for folks to jump in with their feedback on these. We want to, as a goal, ensure that services are available statewide. And I know that is something that support centers have been doing and are doing on a daily basis. Our purpose here is to kind of develop some guidance around what that looks like, where we have such things as here legal deserts that we want to make sure are filled, and we want to prioritize providing services or having services that are available and provided in rural areas, underserved areas, and defining what that looks like. And there's been a lot of talk, I think, over the past few years, generally, as we've gone through some of these rules changes and other things with respect to QLSPs, for example, about how to look at where services are being provided. And so I think can we go to the next slide? Because I think the next slide sort of puts us into some of the sort of questions that, yeah. So we also are mindful of the fact that there is a different mode in which work is provided, or services are being provided now versus maybe in years past, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Not just in terms of, the ability for us to have video conferences and things like that, where we can provide services. I can sit here in one part of the state and provide services to somewhere in another part of the state, and then like providing services in that other place? Do I need to be physically in that other place in order for that to qualify? But also in sort of recognizing that there's a shift in where clients are and where needs are. And then we've been looking at sort of what mechanisms can we use to, as we just talked about, publicize the availability of services on a statewide basis. So, folks in LA may understand that there's a great support center here in LA that offers certain services to QLSPs, but those services could be equally applicable and can be provided to folks in other areas of the state. So, it's part of that broader discussion. So, and the guidelines discussion about communications, we just talked about that. That's the same sort of concept. So, like, how do we a methodology or sort of a set of standards as far as what the requirements are, and then what kind of information we can look at to document whether services are available and are being publicized to folks throughout the state. Can you go to the next slide? So we've looked, so there has been a way of sort of examining there are ways of examining sort of like regions within the state so that we can set a standard on that basis. The state bar has, and we can show you the map in a minute, but there's a map of like 7 regions of the state that one thought that we've sort of explored is, can we set a number, right? 5 of 7 is something that we've been talking about, or that's part of, what we've looked at, and is in the guidelines, 5 of 7 regions. But does that capture some of the priorities that where we want to making sure that underserved communities and underserved counties, rural counties, for example, rural areas within counties are captured within that? And, there is a way, the way that state bar map is set up, you could have 5 of 7 without touching any of those. And that's a challenge that we have, right? Is that, but do we want to say 6 of 7 or 7 of 7? Like, is there a better way? We're sort of looking at, are there better ways of measuring whether whether you're actually providing services on a statewide basis? And this is the map. It's helpful, and I think, as you can see, like it wasn't. I don't think it was created for this purpose, but I think it has served some helpful purposes in terms of giving us a way of capturing certain regions of the state and certain areas where services can be provided or are being provided. But we're looking at that. That it's a question for us to get feedback on, and we've gotten some feedback on it and have discussions about. And the other aspect of this is, looking at this also qualitatively, right? Both in terms of like the significant level, but also on a statewide basis. Are the statewide contacts and work that's being done at a significant level, or is it, there's one email that's going out to a program that's in the northernmost region of the state, or some of these other areas where there are less services being provided. So it's been a challenge. I'm eager to hear from folks, or see if there's questions about and thoughts about how we can capture this the best in terms of being true to the rule and the authority and the responsibility that we have in terms of distributing these funds, but also being aware and understanding of the fact that the various services that are being provided by support centers are done in a variety of different ways on a variety of different topics, and setting certain benchmark standards may not be as easy or effective as we might want them to be. So that's sort of where we are. Would love to hear from folks' questions or any other feedback. And obviously, Kim, Erica, Catherine, if I've if I've missed anything, let me know or sort of jump in, please.
I mean, I think the only thing that we've talked about, which was consistent with a comment Erica Conley made earlier, was trying to build in flexibility when the standard might not work for a program doing a specialized area, so that we can not by virtue of incorporating something into a rule, like exclude people from being able to deliver what they need to. So we're thinking hard, I think, about how to do that. And Eric, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't see your hand.
No, you're totally fine. I actually have what is probably a question I should have asked at the very beginning, and I'm really sorry. This is like a very basic question, but it's just been a while. So support centers have to go through deeming, but then do they have to meet these qualifications every year to get the funding? I'm just trying to remember. Like QLSPs, I know have like a very complicated like application process, all this kind of stuff. But I'm just trying to get a sense of like when we would apply these. And if it's like every year. Sorry, that's like a really silly, and I'm sorry that I don't know the answer to that. I apologize.
I'm happy
All right, it looks
to,
like perfect, Earl.
yeah, happy to
Will
answer
walk
that.
me through this. Sorry.
No, and I think that's a great question, especially because commissioners don't, look through the application every year or know what we're specifically requesting. You rely heavily on staff to kind of do that analysis for you. And so yes, this information is requested every year from sports centers. And so one of the things that we look at is we ask them to list the QLSPs that they served in the past year, as well as an estimate of, the number of services that they provided to each QLSP. And so staff can take a look at the locations of where the QLSPs are throughout the state to compare it to that map, to make sure that, 5 of the 7 regions are served. And then similarly with the significant level, that minimum 10 kind of number that's in the eligibility guidelines is something that staff also screens for. Yeah, so we do look for both significant level and statewide services when we review the application. But I think that through this process and development of the rules, we could have a more robust analysis of the work being performed, because I think that's an area that could use some bolstering.
Yeah,
I guess.
Erica, just to quickly add to that, I've been, and our whole team, I think, has been really interested in where the rubber hits the road in verification, as Amin mentioned in one of the slides, where, all of these rules currently, and then as amended, will boil down to a smart, simple request, of like a box where a grants manager is going to be checking, ticking boxes next to this or that region, and staff will be, as Erica mentioned, pulling up maps to see where QLSPs are and whatnot. So to be very frank, like, as we all know, the IOLTA EAF app alone for support centers is enormous. It's a big lift. And I think some of the other parts of our office are working on streamlining our reporting processes and whatnot, so that grantees have even more time to do the work, versus the applications and the reporting. So I just want to flag too that practicability is really important. I think in all of this is like, how can we confirm these services have been rendered in these regions? And, and Smart Simple has limitations too, even in applying the map or looking up certain orgs. And then also to flag that, like, one org may be in Oakland, but serving counties elsewhere. So what addresses are you using? Are you using the org headquarters location, the attorney location, which may be remote from where the org headquarters is, and the client population location, which is elsewhere? And then finally, sometimes it's like a stakeholder that's in another location. So I just want to flag some complexities and real world issues that we're grappling with. But thank you, Amin and Erica, for those questions and comments. And Erica, Carol too.
Sorry, but just to make sure that's all very helpful, but I just wanted to make sure I confirm. So deeming is like a minimum. They have to be deemed in order to even qualify to apply. But then if they apply, in theory, these rules, we could reject them even if they have been deemed. That's the idea,
Not
the
deemed,
structure, right?
but they're not deemed every year.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So the idea is like, I understand the deeming, and there's some that don't have to go through deeming, right? Because they existed as of the time of the statute. They're 40 odd years old now. But I'm just trying to make sure I understand. I think there was a part of me that got confused as far as the deeming versus that, which is, and I don't know, have we ever rejected a support center for funding that was deemed?
In my time with the state bar, we have not. I don't know if Dewan
Yeah, in my
knows anything more historically, but
yeah, my time, no, but I do think there was probably one in the last 40 years. I just can't think of the name right now.
No, it's okay. I was just trying to get a sense of like, these are great. All this discussion is really great. I was just trying to figure out like,
yeah,
kind of where like the QLSPs kind of move in and move out, you know, of the application. We've not frequently, right? But like occasionally we have like found them ineligible, like they don't meet like audit and that kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of,
I think
yeah,
there was
sorry.
So
there's one that you were aware of, I think, that we were debating whether they
Oh
met
yeah.
eligibility, and we took sort of these proactive measures to help support them, but that's probably the closest I remember. So sorry.
Sure, that was like on a slightly more on a quality, if we're thinking of the same one, like more on a quality control, internal control issue.
Yeah.
But as far as like actually like, we don't think you're a support center. We have not. Okay. I was just trying to, that was like a very base thing that I was trying to figure out.
yeah,
So
so
there.
I think with deeming, the way I would describe it is if an organization is deemed, it, creates a presumption of eligibility, but there's no restriction on the commission's ability to reject an application if they don't meet other requirements. So, that. Similarly to with QLSPs, if they receive like, I don't know, there's like the Legal Services Corporation funding, Older Americans Act funding, or the $20,000 requirement. Like that's kind of your threshold eligibility requirement, but then they need to demonstrate more on top of it, right? And so
Yeah. Okay.
I think I would analogize in that regard.
If I could too, in this precious time we have, I also just want to flag, kind of on a slightly different topic, but I want to appreciate the working group members and legal aid community feedback around the legal deserts point, and I know that Erica, Carol, and Elizabeth Hom and so many others have done so much on the justice gap study. And I appreciated that our working group commissioners noted that in the 507 schema, you could still neglect some very underserved areas potentially. And I think that this charge of a support center serving the state, the entire state, and some of the most underserved populations is something we all take so seriously, and something we hear a lot in our monitoring visit. Like, I'm the only attorney in this entire county, or, we're the only ones that go there and give know your rights trainings to farm workers, et cetera. So I just want to flag that in the process of rule amendments, we're looking at crafting a potential rule so that it addresses rurality or other types of kind of underserved communities. And I don't know if others want to speak to that, but that's just something to flag that we're working on. We don't have to talk about it now, but it is in process.
I also just wanted to add that I think some of the perspectives that were shared during our feedback sessions with support centers that touched on this were interesting in that, they mentioned that of course they work with QLSPs when and where they can, but when you think of the statewide aspect of services, I think you heard it in the public comment today. One of them said that they themselves are reaching more rural areas of the state directly, sometimes when a QLSP is either not there or there's a gap in services that the sports center thinks that they can fill. And, we had also heard feedback about working with, courts, for example, in more rural areas with like self-help centers and that sort of thing. And so, yes, the QLSP aspect is important to the sports centers, but that they also view their statewide presence in terms of other services outside of just serving QLSPs. So, obviously the statute speaks to statewide services to QLSPs, so that really is our primary focus. But just wanted to note that, like, from, I think, the support center perspective about the scope of their work and their presence, that, think there was a desire for recognition that they do operate statewide, but that maybe that's not always it's not always responsive to the part of the statute that we need to be talking about. So.
I was like commenting on this, and but I'm just going to say this, like, and I don't know the right answer here, but first off, let me just preface all this to say, in this discussion, there is no question to me about like the good work everyone's doing, right? And like the work that they're doing with direct services, that's amazing. I'm very like happy that they're doing that. I'm a little concerned about importing non-support. Like I think Catherine kind of flagged this earlier. What is QLSP work that support centers are doing, and what is support center work? And in what ways is work that's really QLSP work kind of getting them over the hump on, and maybe this isn't happening, I don't know, but you're raising this point about statewide. Is that okay? I don't know. It seems as if the support centers, the goal is to have expertise so that the legal service organizations can be offering direct services, but maybe not necessarily reading the Federal Register every day to see what kind of rule has come out, what the interpretation is, right? Like that's sort of my sense of it, right? Is that they're supposed to be building like expertise, tracking things. What's the new SCOTUS decision have the impact on this? So that the other, the QLSPs can be like serving people every day. And so I say that just to say, like, I value that work, and maybe there's something where we need to figure out how to bring that work in. That doesn't seem quite what the statute tasks us with doing, as you pointed out, Erica. And so I want to recognize it and say it's great. I just don't know how whether it counts.
I think that's part of what we've been trying to noodle through.
Yeah.
Should we go on?
Have we been counting it? Sorry, just out of curiosity, have we been counting it? No, we haven't. Okay. That's what I was curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Erica, Connolly, and Catherine. Yeah, we can go to our next topic. And I'd also just flag that what I'm struck by from my career as a grantee, but also in our state bar work, is just the variation of support center work. It's like some are heavily focused on co-counseling, as well as, say, litigation training, because we know co-counseling informs your litigation training. So your litigation training, I think, is going to be enhanced because you've been somewhat in the trenches. And some are doing tons of amicus briefs and coordinating advocacy support and stakeholder, advocacy with governmental bodies, whereas others are much more bread and butter eviction defense, legal technical assistance or whatnot. So I just want to flag that I think that's an exciting opportunity of this work, but also challenges like these support centers are quite different from one another and serve very different needs and even issue areas, as we heard about with immigration, for example. Like some are very much in that space, some less so, and everybody's evolving as fast as they can. So those are just some other comments to make, but anything else on statewide before we move to our next topic? I so appreciate what people are sharing. Okay, all right. I'll advance the slide. Thank you. This is really productive. And Catherine, do you want to share just appreciation for Tony?
Yeah. So Tony is our third work group member, and she wasn't able to be here today unexpectedly. So we really appreciate her work. And Kim, I think, is filling in for her. So
yes, thank you. Thanks, Catherine. And yes, please all chime in. But we also wanted to flag, I think this slide gives us the opportunity to flag that we're very much interested in making sure any rule amendment changes are tethered to other changes that need to be made. So not only in the rules, so if one rule changes, we want to make sure all the rules will be updated accordingly for consistency and digestibility sake, but also smart, simple. We just want to flag for anyone listening or who catches this later that any words or phrases used should be understandable and smart, simple too. So we want to increase understanding and application and the speed at which anyone can digest these things, because sometimes it's a little esoteric. So the reason I say all that is because Rule 36.80 basically discusses how a qualified support center must agree to offer support services in 2 or more of the following ways. consultation, representation, information services, and training. And it follows with the board of directors of the support center must establish priorities for providing such services after consulting with legal services attorneys and other relevant stakeholders. And so the first part of the rule was flagged for us, or we flagged it, because you're hearing phrases like information services and words like consultation. And so what we want to do, and it's not done yet, but make sure the discussion of legal support services that we had in May and the work that we're doing around the rule governing legal support services and how those are defined comports and is consistent with 3.680. So words like information services, we're contemplating retiring or at least considering streamlining so that there aren't so many mentions of different types of legal support services activities that it becomes confusing or onerous. And so that's the first thing to just share. We want to make sure there's conformity and streamlining. And then secondly, and we'll open it up for comment, but this rule is perfectly mentioned in the context of our conversations about tethering the support center activities to the QLSP's work and vice versa, making sure in this ecosystem of two types of grantees that they're able to work together and inform each other and collaborate. So this was written a long time ago. And anyone can feel free to weigh in on the legislative history, but in this old world, the board of directors of the support center would establish priorities of those services and consult with the legal services attorneys. But right now, we wanted to see if there was an opportunity with this rule to update it, to enhance that communication between QLSPs and support centers, to make sure the support center work was in fact useful to QLSPs and made sense for the support centers themselves as they decide what they do. So I want to open it up to the floor, but we were excited about the opportunity of amending this rule to strengthen the sort of dichotomous relationship between the two entities. Anything to add, Catherine, Erica, Amin?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll say is we also were puzzled by why the board was establishing the priorities in that way. It didn't quite make sense to us. So that's kind of consistent with what Kim is saying of how do those priorities get set and what's the role of the QLSPs working with support centers? So I think some just clean up, but thank you for flagging that, Kim.
Yeah. And just so folks know, Smart Simple right now, a support center will see this section of our Smart Simple application and they'll just literally list two of those things they do. They just note those two and basically affirm that they have established those priorities. So it's a very light touch part of our Smart Simple ILTA application. And again, if anyone wants to add more color to how that's played out in the past, please do. So I could just tee up the question in building on Catherine's point is, setting priorities for legal support services of support centers. Do folks have thoughts and comments? And it relates to the public comments we received earlier, how support centers can and maybe struggle to connect at times with QLSP work. And I also flag an exciting opportunity that's not been decided yet, but we were thinking, how can the state bar, as we convene grantees, we're more and more convening grantees, which we're so excited to do. How can the state bar perhaps, or LAC or other folks connect support centers and QLSPs so that they can know about each other? And so that a QLSP can know, oh, this support center is offering a really great training on housing discrimination. I can't wait to go. How can we make sure those priorities are set together? So I don't know, Erica, too, if you have more questions to tee up on this section or others.
No, I think that's great.
Great. Selena's hand up. Thanks. Oh, and a nice new background.
Yeah, my house is getting loud. I'm happy to talk with y'all later about what LAC currently does. We support center connections, and it's probably too much to get into this meeting, but there's always going to be a gap with new QLSPs, and I would love to think through the ways that when y'all onboard new QLSPs, they get more of an introduction. But I mean, one of the easiest things I do is I meet with every new executive director of either a new executive director to an existing grantee or new grantees. I offer to meet with them, and I explain what support centers do, and we have the support center directory.
So great. We appreciate that. And we want to keep trumpeting that out and adding belts and suspenders where necessary if for some reason they don't catch those wonderful onboarding moments. Thank you, Selena. Others comments on this rule, this section, these principles? And also flagging that Erica Carroll and the working group are available as needed if people percolate and have later ideas and input that they want to add. This is not the only juncture at all. All right. Well, it sounds like people are mulling it over. Catherine, anything else you want to add on this section? I think you had some terrific ideas as well.
No, I think you did a nice job summarizing everything.
All right, great. So we're done with this section for now. And we just wanted to take a minute, if this works for everybody, to lay out next steps, reminders, and thank you all again. So we are incorporating the input that we got from the legal aid groups in early August and have flagged that they can write to us, and some have written some great notes to us as well. There is a memo forthcoming that will put together the phase 1 and phase 2 topics all in one document. That will be circulated to the legal aid community in the next month. This memo will have the actual rule amendments that we've been looking at and considering and working through with the working group. And that will go to the Rules Committee in October of 2025, followed by the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission in November 2025 for vote. We completely encourage you all to write us with questions, comments, concerns, ideas, real world examples, all of it. We so appreciate everyone's input. And as you know, the new rules would go into effect upon these votes and approvals, as people have asked when this would potentially become effective. And the legal aid where the guidelines we spoke about that would be phased out would I believe, and folks correct me if I'm not correct, but the idea is to have a handbook where there's more detail. So the rules themselves will be amended, but then there would be even more guidance in the form of a handbook over time. And Smart Simple would be updated accordingly to make sure there's consistency in how all these terms are used. And TA, as you know, the State Bar staff love to offer TA at every possible juncture. So, you know, should a webinar or some type of meeting be helpful to grantees to help them understand what we're changing or what would be shifting, we very much want to offer those opportunities. And so this ongoing work continues, as you know, with regard to many State Bar rules over time. And we're looking forward to connecting support centers and QLSPs in lots of ways, not just through rule amendments, but as we talked about, there could be other ways to connect the work of each type of entity. Thanks so much for everyone in this process. Feel free, Erica or Catherine or anyone in the working group, Amin, Duan, others to add questions or comments. We welcome them. And that is it for today for this section.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to check in and see whether anybody on the committee, Selena, had any final words before we'll give you a little bit of your afternoon back, which no one ever complains about, which is great. So thank you. Anything else? Okay.
I'll just
Go ahead.
I'll just say thank you to you guys for handling this. It's a really big thing. I'm not sure. I mean, my questions or random comments are very helpful, but at least it gives you some sense of where I'm thinking. But thank you guys for taking this on. I know it's like a huge one.
Thanks so much, Erica. Okay, everyone enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.